Okay, so I've got an app started here. I have the my site project, and then I have two apps accounts, which is going to handle, unsurprisingly, user and authentication and stuff like that, and then blog, which is just going to have basically a simple form. So let's go ahead and we'll do the accounts first. I have the URLs more or less set up, prepared. So we're going to have a login, log out, and sign up. So first thing, I'm going to go into views, and I'm going to handle the login and log out because we get those for free with Django. So from Django dot views, put login view and log out view. And I'm going to, we could just use these directly in the URLs, just import them here and then put them in. But I'm gonna do it here just to keep things better organized. So I'm gonna subclass login view first. So let's do I just do that, and then class. So you could do both of these. You can also, there are a few things that we should have. So we could just do it like this, but Django's going to have some default expectations for where certain things are, like the HTML document that we want to serve up. So we can also customize that. We can be more specific. So we can pass a template name, and we could pass it when we call it here, but we'll keep it here. Template name, and that will be accounts/login.html. We'll do the same thing here. All right, and that should be good. We might need to do a couple other things, but we'll cross that bridge when the time comes. And so now I'm going to add those templates. And might as well log out that HTML. So I'll do something very quick. Let's log in. And then I know that I'm going to get a form. So I can make sure that's the method is post. And then I'm going to need a couple things. So one is the CSRF token. And then the form itself. And then finally the submit button. Okay, I'm going to copy this because it's very similar here. So this actually doesn't really need a form at all, but I'm just going to actually, yeah, I'm just going to not have a form. Okay, so I have login and log out. So now when this view gets called for login, it should fill in that template with whatever we give it. So
I have a question on your views file. Should line 8 say accounts log out?
yes, it should. Thank you. So we're going to import from views my site login view and my site logout view. And here we'll do my site login view, and we have, because this is a class and this the path here expects a function, we have to call this function, which will return a function as view. We'll do the same thing here. Okay, so now these views are hooked up. We still need to take care of sign up, but maybe I'll comment that out for now. Okay, so we have our our views and our URLs set up, and let's go to the models. So here we're going to subclass from user. We could just use user directly, but we'll the recommended thing to do is a subclass. So from the user object is located inside Django from Django.contrib.
Can you give us an example of a profile with a one-to-one relationship with this?
A one-to-one profile?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure, you could do that. The models, abstract user. So I can I'll do both. I'll subclass user and then also have a one-to-one model. So this profile. So here we're gonna inherit from abstract user, which is the Django built-in user, and we could add fields here. We could also just kind of let it be as it is. And I'm going to add something just for the Django admin. So class meta verbose name. Okay, and then for the profile, we could also, let's do and we'll do my site. Well, we can do settings dot we could do that, or we'll set that up in a sec, but for now we'll just do my site user. Delete. Okay, so I think that should be good for
So
now.
that doesn't really make sense. The favorite color being the my site user that it's connected to. Wouldn't that be like
Oh, sorry.
user and then my favorite
Yes.
color would be a separate thing?
Sorry. Okay, so we have the user, and we have this user profile, and I'm going to go into the settings. Add the, since we're customizing the user model, we need to tell Django. That is accounts, and then my site user. My site user, yes. Okay. So now we have the models and the URLs and the views. I think that should be good for accounts right now. So now we'll go into the blog, and let's do the model for the blog as well. So here we're going to do, we'll do a one-to-many relationship. So we'll have to import our user. So you can import it or do the, so from accounts.models import my site user. The author will be foreign key, and then my site user. Then we'll get a title. And content. Okay, and then I'm going to override the string here. Okay, so now we have a model here for the post. So if we go into URLs, we have two paths. So I'm going to use the class-based views here, just because. Definitely don't have to. And there are a couple views. So the two views that I have, one is I want to list everything. So there is a list view. There's also the one we saw last time, which is just the most basic view, just called view. And there you override the different methods, and you can say what you want. There are some more specialized ones like list view, which is appropriate for here. And then there's also a create view, which we'll use for this route. So from Django dot where forgot the import. Django views generic. List view and then create view. And so I'm gonna, one of these is gonna be called class. Let's do I'll call it, keep the naming consistent, list posts view. This will inherit from list view. And then, so there are a few things that we need to tell it. We need to give it a model, so it knows how to construct this. So model, and that's going to be our blog post here. So that will be this one. So from dot models import post. And then we also need to give it a what's called a query set. So the typical pattern for something like this is, you know, you hit your database. I want to get all the posts. You can specialize things however you like. So that's assumed here. So you just will pass that that query to this attribute. So query set equals post dot objects dot all. And then I think we need a template as well. So model context object name. So this is another thing we can specify. So when we pass the, when we write a functional based view, we can give whatever we want to name. Like typically that would be, you know, posts or something like that. That would be the key in the context dictionary. So we can specify that here as well. So get object name. Context object name, sorry. Template name will be blog slash okay, so now I'm gonna have to go and do the usual thing where I create the templates folder. And then let's see, blog. All right, and yeah, I'm just gonna do quick and easy just so you can see that it works. Posts. So I called this post, so I'm gonna call it posts here. Okay, so my view, list posts view, I'm gonna can comment this out for now. My models are good. So the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna register my models with the admin so that I can see them in the admin console. So here we got from dot models import post, and we'll register it. So admin.site.register post. And then in accounts, I'm going to do the same thing. So from dot models, let's do import profile and my site user. There's one other import we have to do. So we had this issue last time where the admin didn't look quite right. So you saw the password maybe displayed in a way that it shouldn't have been. So that, I mean, that's just a presentation issue, but you can fix that by basically importing a specific admin, a class for the admin panel. So from Django dot contrib admin and maybe models. I think so. Let me just double check this. Django contrib auth admin. Contrib auth. And then we do something very similar. So admin.site.register. So here we're registering this, but we want to use basically what we want to use this to format the how it will look in the admin. So admin.site. Wow. Okay, so I think we're good here. We'll find out. So I'm gonna do make migrations. Okay, so blog URLs. Right, so I didn't import this. So if we look at the corresponding view here, we have this posts view. All right, let's try that now. All right, and I'm going to create a super user. And I'll start the server. Okay. So I'll go to blog and I get all the posts. There are no posts, but it works. So I go to log out. I can go to log out, log in, and I get a form. So that looks like it's working. So I'm going to go to the admin. So we have the profiles and the my site users. We have, so I'll create a new user. Okay, can also create a profile. Okay, and then I'll create a post. Okay, and now if I go back here to blog, I get the first post right there. Okay, and I'm gonna try logging out. And I'm logged out now. I can try logging in. Okay, so I'm logged in, but there's an issue because basically it's looking for something by default, which is this profile page. So I can set that in my settings. So this will be the login redirect URL, and let's say that will be blog, I think. So let me go back here. I'll try logging in again. And I get redirected to blog. So that's all working the way it's supposed to. Basically, you know, this is kind of review, but I've seen this before. Okay, so if we look at our views, let's look at URLs. We have login, logout. So that all works. Seems to be good. Login, logout, and then we need sign up. Well, let's do, yeah, let's do sign up first. So we have this sign up. So we have to go into the views. And so Django doesn't have a default sign up for you. So you have to make your own. But that's fairly easy to do. We'll have to make, well, we can use, there's a create view, which is nice. It's one of the specialized views that Django gives you. So there's the create view, and then we also need a form. And Django also has, conveniently enough, a user creation form. So this view will be my site. Sign up. And this will be from dot views dot generic create view. So we have a create view. So my site user sign up. I think, create view. So we're going to need a form. Let's look at well, yeah, let's make the form right now. So forms. And then the form we're going to need is going to be a user creation form. So from Django.forms. It's not user creation form. Sorry, I forgot to import. Django contrib auth forms. So user creation form. So this will be my site user form. We call this user creation. Okay, so make it a class. My site user creation form. So my site user creation form, it's going to take, so any form class, like if you inherit from model forms, it requires two things: a model, at minimum, a model, and then the fields. So we'll define a meta class, and the model will be this is going to be our custom form. So my site user, and then the fields. So we don't, I mean, it depends on what you actually want, but let's say we only want the username and password. So we don't want all the other stuff. So we can do username. And then Django requires you to enter password and then check it. You have to enter the same password twice. And these fields are called password1 and password2. Okay, so we have our form. This is hooked up with the my site user. And let's see, my site user. So we'll need the template name. So we need a template name, and then we'll need the form model. What's that called? Sorry, form class. Form class will be that form we just created. So from that forms, import my site user creation form. There's a template, we have the form class. I think we need a success URL. Just because, you know, it's going to redirect to some location. So we'll just tell it where. This will be when you sign up, we'll go to login. So that will be and then the model, let's see. Okay, so that should be good for that class. And let me add that template here. Let's sign up. I'm gonna do this. My site accounts models accounts views. Yep, auto imports path missing one in the view. So accounts URLs. Okay, so we have this view, which is gonna basically spit out a form and then accept the form and create a user based on this model and the form that we created. So go here, it imports my site user sign up.
Chad, can you
Yes.
use that? You can use that create view if you're creating a view for a like a view that wouldn't have a form. Would you just leave that form class line out?
Yeah, so you would probably not inherit from create view if you didn't want a form. You could So there's list view, for example, which we were using. Let's see. So this list view, for example, doesn't have a, there's not a way for you to create something. I mean, you could customize it, but you probably wouldn't want to do that. But yeah, it gets complicated, and there are lots of different things. But let's see. So you can see that there are a whole bunch of views with different specialized date-based views, editing views, detail views, list view. So list view is what we're using right there. There's also just plain old view somewhere up here, view.
Would that be the one you would use if you just kind of wanted a more like almost a static page, but not, like maybe just display the user's name within the content or something like that?
Yeah, it kind of depends. So I've said this before, but there are 50 different ways to do the same thing in Django. View is, you could, let's say I just, are you talking about just a static page where you're not even hitting the database or anything?
Yeah, just maybe using the user, like some of the information from the user's profile, but not necessarily wanting a form on there, not necessarily wanting to list the blog posts or anything like that.
Yeah, so right, so you could do that with a view. You could do that with a detail view. You could do that with a list view. You could do that with a function. Yeah, there would be a lot of different ways to do that. And so there are these base views, and the way Django adds different functionality to its classes. Sorry. It's by using something called mix-ins. And a mix-in is just multiple inheritance, but it kind of, it's like composition using inheritance. So composition, if you recall from way back when, is if I want to create an object, let's say like a robot, right? I want to make a robot, and robots have lots of different parts. So I can assemble like, an arm part and a, whatever leg part, a head part. I can take all those other objects, they're all independent objects. And I can combine them together in this robot. So the robot itself maybe doesn't, it's just kind of like a container for other components to a certain extent. So that's composition. Inheritance, of course, is, I have an animal class, and then I make a dog class, which inherits from animal class. So a mix-in is a way of using the mechanism of inheritance to give subclasses specialized functionality. So you could have like an authentication mix-in or like a form mix-in. So mix-ins typically are going to have like one specific thing that they do, like, a form. So you have a form mix-in, and let's say I have another view, like, just like a basic view. So I have a basic view, but I also want to have a form. So you can create a new subclass that inherits from view and the form mix-in. And so in that subclass, you have access to the form and then all of the other functionality from view. So a lot of these classes are combinations of other classes. You don't need to, you don't need to necessarily like worry about that, or you certainly don't need to have like understand the actual hierarchy that Django uses. But I think it's good to know that that's how Django does it. And does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's it's interesting to know that it kind of, you can take these views that are already kind of built by Django, or you can pick and choose and cherry pick what you want. I think one thing also that occurred to me while I was asking the question was just that it's called create view. In my mind, I was thinking, oh, I'm creating a view, but it's not. It's a view that is creating something.
Yeah, so
That's, I think that's where I was confused too.
yeah. So if you think about it in the context of CRUD, so a CRUD app, it's
Yeah,
create,
yeah.
read, update, destroy. So that's what the create.
So if you're not creating some, like if you need some kind of a form to create something, so that
Yeah.
would totally make sense that that's a necessary part of that.
Yeah. So you don't, I mean, yeah, you don't technically, yes, you don't technically need, you could, just hit an endpoint or whatever. You don't, but 99% of the time in a real live web application, you have a form that creates stuff. Okay, so we have, let's see.
Chad, do you mind showing the contents of that forms.py file again?
Forms.py, yes. For the blog, let's see, I don't think I had one. Did I have one for the blog? I don't think I did. Yeah, that counts.
You still got the tab open too. I think, yeah, there you go.
Oh, okay. All right, thanks.
So I'm not really doing much customization, but I could, I could add another field here. If I wanted another field to show up in the form, I could add that here. But yeah, I'm not doing that. So I'm subclassing a lot of this stuff, and I'm not really, this is more of like a notional thing. I'm not really, we could just pass this in as a keyword argument instead of subclassing, but I'm doing it to show that this is what's actually happening. You can just subclass these, and for also just for organizational clarity, I think. All right. Kind of forgot where I was, but let's see what we can do. Blog. So let's see. Yeah, all right. We're going to create one. So we have this view and the URLs. That's the wrong URLs. So let's go into blog. URLs, views. Right, so the URLs, okay, so this is for the blog, and then the accounts, the URLs, sign up. Okay, right, so we should be able to sign up now. That's what we're doing. Okay, so I can sign up. I'll try to create a new user. Okay, I think that worked. Let's check the. I'm going to log in as the super user again, and I have that U3 user that just got created. So I can log in as U3. Yeah, so I got a CSRF error because I logged out. I logged in as the super user and then went back here. So if I went to log in again, should get a fresh CSRF token, and I can log in. There we go. I can see that. All right. So now we can do everything that we want to do with the user. We can log in, log out, and sign up. And then in our let's say our actual application, we can see everything. Now what we want to do is we want to be able to create a new post. So in order to do that, we're going to add another view. Instead of list view, we're going to use the create view class, and we'll do call this post. And then for here, we can do something very similar. So model is post, and we don't need a query set or anything. So this is going to be a little different. So we have this issue. Well, let's do it kind of the wrong way first. So we'll do form. So if we look at our other, so this is the second time in this app or in this project, we're inheriting from create view. So we can look over here at this other create view. We need a model, template name, form class, and success URL. So template name, that will be and then that is one class. And we haven't made the form yet, so we'll hold off on that. Or yeah, let's just make it now. Yeah, let's make the form. So on forms.py. And this form is going to be based on our blog model. So I'm going to use a model form, the Django model form. So from Django dot wait, Django import. And we'll do we'll inherit from model form. And we inherit from model form. We need, just like any model form, we need to give it two things. One is the model, two is the fields. So class meta posts. So I'm going to import the model from .models, import post. And then the fields, I'm going to do everything, and we'll fix that later. Okay, so now I have this form, post create form. I'm gonna go back into the view and put that in here. So I have my post create form and then success URL. Let's just do let's see, that will be let's go to all. So all right, so let's see if that works now. Well, first we got to hook this up in the URLs. So we're importing list post view and then post create view. As view. And we'll try to go to new. Template does not exist. So forgot that part. Within blog templates. So this is just going to be a normal form. So I'm going to copy this again. Okay. So now I can, I go to /new and I get this new form, but I get this drop down by default. So I can create a post, it should work. Let's say user 3. Saves. We can see that this post shows up here. We can go to the admin. Log in. So use repost. This got saved. But probably we don't want to let people do this. Just choose. We have presumably, you know, every user in our application. This is just not how you would do it. So the problem here. Let me clean this up 1 second. The problem here is in our form. So we're saying every field that a post has, include it in the form. And our post has these 3 things, but we don't want author to be there. So we've handled this before when we had the functional views. Anyone remember how we did this, the functional view?
Didn't we end up creating a copy of the form and then like saying like user dot whatever the attribute is that passes the author, and then like saving that to the new form and then committing the new form?
Yeah, exactly. So you call save, but you pass in this keyword argument commit. So commit will be false. It's true by default. So commit false, that will return basically a form with everything ready to go. And then you add the attribute that you want, in this case, the author, which you get from the request object. So the user, the currently logged in user is in the request object. So you assign that to the form, and then you save the form. So in some ways, that's a more transparent process when you're using a functional view, as almost everything is in the functional view. And with a class-based view, you can't just do whatever you want, wherever you want. So you need to override some stuff. And if you look around in the documentation, eventually you'll get to the, let's see, form views. Yeah, so you'll get to the place in the documentation where you realize you can override a method. So just like we've done with the validators and everything else, you can kind of hook in. You can hook into what Django is already doing. Django's behind the scenes calling all kinds of stuff. So you can hook in there, you can override things, and that's what we're going to do here. So there's a method that's going to get called form valid. Oops. Form valid, and that will take self and the form. And what we're going to do is basically the same thing. So we're going to say the form, let's do, we'll call it, I don't know what a good name for this is, but ready form is form.save. Okay, so we're going to save the form, but not really save it. And then we're going to change the attribute. So ready form, and then author, right? Because that's the field that we have here in our model, it's author. So that author will be, self dot request dot user. So the user comes along with a request, and then we're gonna basically just so we're gonna override this. We also want Django to do its normal built-in thing. So super form valid form. So, this whoops, this part is not necessarily obvious. You have to figure that out by looking around in the documentation. But here's where you could override that. So now, if you go into the forms, we're not going to do all. We're just going to do what is it? Title. So I'm going to refresh this. And we don't have that showing up right now. And I believe I'm logged in. So save this. I don't know what user I was logged in. Let's find out. The admin, which is, that makes sense. I was able to access the admin. So I'm going to log out, and then log in as 2. Okay, now I'm logged in. I'm going to create a new post. And I'm going to refresh this. I'll have to log in. We go to the posts. It is in fact by the second user. So as usual, there's a lot of steps to do this stuff. There isn't, I don't think there's any one step that's necessarily especially like, conceptually difficult or anything, but figuring out how Django does it is a pain, and looking through the documentation and Stack Overflow and whatever, and just knowing how to ask the questions and being like familiar with how Django works can help with that process. So I'm gonna, are there any questions? I'm just gonna do a quick wrap up here. Okay, so
I have one question,
sure.
Going a little bit back to, hold on. Oh, in your admin.py file, when you were registering my site user, and then passed it that second parameter of user admin, can you review what that user admin is doing? Just the user, yeah.
Yeah, so there are, you can write a class that will control, that gives you more control over what the admin GUI looks like. And so that's basically it. So I can do something like class my user. Let me just real quick, let's look at my site users. So you can see what this looks like. So username, there's this like table, it's a table. So I'm gonna customize this. Let's see. Off the top of my head, I can't remember. So let's do search fields. Something like list display. So this should work. This should limit what gets displayed. So user, and then let's save this and do. I'm going to refresh this. And now there's only these 2 fields here. So username and then staff status, which is admin. So you can,
Thank you.
yeah. So there's a lot of other things you can do, but this is just admin GUI customization.
I have a question, but it's a little specific.
Okay.
So if people don't want to watch you do this, then I guess they don't have to. But can you make it so that
So I will say, but before you start, then I'm basically done with the substance of the lecture. So if you feel free to start working on the challenge.
all right? So can you set it up so that every post that a user makes gets its own ID that is unique to that user, instead of like okay, so each post is going to have a unique ID, right? A primary key.
Right.
But what about an ID just for that user, so that if I wanted to get the 10th post that a user made, I could do a GET request for number 10.
I see. One thing you could do is if you had a date field on the post, which you probably would, you could order by date and then
get the 10th one.
take the 10th one that way. If you didn't,
What if it was something where a date wasn't something that you'd regularly use for that?
yeah, so the basic question is, it's essentially like I create 10 posts, like, temporally in a line here, and I want to access those temporally, but without a date field.
Yeah, I was thinking like making something that would automatically put in that ID or the user specific ID.
You could
Starting
do
at
something like
1.
you could do something like nth post. Let me try counts, blog, models. You could try doing something like nth post equals models dot integer, maybe integer field. And then probably off the top of my head, I don't know if I could do it, but you'd write a function here, which let's do, I don't know, get and in here you do something like, okay, so I go to save a post. Let's say it's my first post. I would maybe make a call to the database, like post.objects, whatever. So get all the posts by the given author. And if there are 0 posts, then I set this value to 1, for example. So 1 plus however many posts there are. And that way you could have a sequence of posts without having a date. So the order in which they were saved, you'd have that information. So you could do that. You could also do that in like on like you could override the save. So let me see if I can just do it.
So I can see how I would do that in the function. How would you get it so that every time a new post was created, it would call that function?
Yeah, so you'd have to. So let me just show you a possible way you could do it. Again, if this might not work because I'm just off the top of my head, but so n equals post dot objects dot filter. Oops. Self, I think probably needs args.
Args and quargs, yeah.
And here we would do self. So first we have to pull out the, so self dot, something like this. Again, in order to actually get this to work, I have to play around with it probably. Something like self.author and then get next post. And then that would be something like that.
Okay. So you use the save function.
I mean, that's my initial thought. There are probably a couple other places you could do this.
Yeah.
Maybe I think save probably makes the most sense.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. Any other questions?